Hey, SuperphIz here. Uh, November 17th, 2020. I won't tell you this, but this is my third start of this video. Yeah, anyway, the last couple days I've been sharing with you all my vision for the EthStaker community. Hopefully that's our shared vision. But I want to get away from that just for a little while because really what we're here for is the technology of Ethereum. And while personally I feel like my biggest contributions are in building the community, I also recognize that a lot of community building comes with spreading valuable information. And so what I've seen for the past few days are a lot of questions around slashing. And, what does slashing mean and how does it really work? And so I asked around a few people, and Jim McDonald, who is from Attestant, offered to speak with me. And Jim he's one of the people that is just amazing at breaking down complex concepts into simple language that I can understand. And so he and I spoke for an hour today. That call is posted on EthStaker on the YouTube channel. If you have some time, I really encourage you to listen to it. Jim is one of the most knowledgeable people I know regarding Ethereum in general. He is responsible for a lot of the keying, as in the key management systems for Ethereum 2. He also has a service called Attestant that stakes for institutional holders. He also has created a staking system called Vouch and Dirk, which you should really look into. He's just a phenomenal person to speak with. And I want to share with you some of the things that came up in our discussion today. So slashing is essentially an event that occurs when a validator does something either purposefully or not purposefully that's perceived as malicious by the network. And the network then responds by penalizing that user and ejecting them from the network. So you can be on either side of that equation. You can be the validator who commits the mistake, or you can be the validator that runs a slasher and identifies the slashable activity and then submits it to the network or submits it in a block proposal. I feel like a lot of people know the basics. If you don't know the basics, you really should check out the entire video with Jim. Actually, I think you should do that anyway because it's a great video. But there are three things. I'm always looking for, what do I call them? Nuggets, I guess, kernels of truth, rules of thumb, I think I called them in this video. And I have three of them that I'd like to share with you today. And so the first rule of thumb is only ever store your keys on one machine. The best way to prevent being slashed is for your validator keys to only ever run on one machine, and then if you need to switch to another machine, you take that one entirely offline, and then bring the new keys up on a new machine. You should never run a hot backup of your validator keys. This will result in a slashable offense. So rule of thumb number one for slashing is only run your keys on one machine. Rule of thumb number two for slashing is if you're doing maintenance to your computer, to your server, wherever you're running your keys, when you stop your validator and turn it off, wait 13 minutes before starting it back up. And that is the time for two epochs to pass, 6.4 minutes each. And that will ensure that you do not submit the same proposal twice or the same attestation twice. And either of those offenses would be seen as a slashable offense. Now, in all honesty, the odds of that happening are low, but we want to avoid low risks if we can. And the rule of thumb number two to avoid that is to leave your validator off for 13 minutes between restarts. And that will ensure that you don't accidentally submit either the same block proposal twice or the same vote twice. That will mean that you'll miss an attestation, and that's okay. You're going to lose a few pennies. That's okay. It's better to lose a few pennies than risk a slashing event. And the third kind of rule of thumb that I thought was really valuable that when I spoke with Jim was, I had intended to run a slasher on the same server that I'm running my validator. It's a beefy system, and I think it will do fine. But kind of what I learned is that my odds of catching a slashable offense on the mainnet may not really be worth the cost to hardware on my staking machine. So if I'm running a slasher on my primary staking machine, and that slasher, it's very resource intensive, occasionally misses me to miss an attestation, or maybe it reduces my inclusion distance occasionally, the likely reward that I might get if I ever caught a slashable offense is not going to make up for that loss. So the third rule of thumb is, if you're going to run a slasher, run it on a separate machine than your validating machine. That way your validating machine is secure and stable, and you can monitor its performance and upgrade hardware if you need to, but you know that no matter what happens, your slasher is not going to interfere with the performance of your validator. And so there's so much more that I learned about who can submit slashable offenses. Really, many slashers can submit slashable offenses to the open network to be included in the next block, and that may be you. You do not actually have to run a slasher to claim that slashable offense. And if you do observe a slashable offense, it's actually a low risk that you'll be the one to include it in a block. So much great information. I really appreciate Jim's time, and I hope you find a lot of this useful. Thanks for your time. SuperphIz gone. See you all soon.